"You don't belong here. Get out!" Owen Baxter's venomous words echoed through the Grand Horizon Hotel's lobby, his foot deliberately tripping Layla Morgan, a stunning black woman, sending her coffee crashing to the marble floor in a shocking act of prejudice. Where are you listening from? Drop your city in the comments and tell us. What do you think happens next in this explosive confrontation? Welcome to a story that will grip you from start to finish, where power, justice, and reform collide in ways you won't see coming. Hit that subscribe button to catch our latest videos and join the journey, because you won't want to miss how this moment unravels a system and sparks a revolution. Why did Owen underestimate Layla? How does she turn the tables? Stick around to find out and share your thoughts below. Comment, subscribe, and let's dive in. The Grand Horizon Hotel stood like a monolith of opulence in the heart of Chicago, its glass facade catching the last glimmers of dusk as the city hummed beyond its doors. Inside, the lobby was a cathedral of wealth, marble floors polished to a mirror's sheen, crystal chandeliers casting prisms of light, and velvet armchairs that whispered of exclusivity. The air carried the faint scent of jasmine and ambition, a space where the elite moved with ease, their footsteps muffled by the weight of privilege. At precisely 7:32 p.m., the glass doors sighed open, and Layla Morgan stepped into this gilded arena, a solitary figure against the grandeur, her presence a quiet challenge to the room's unspoken rules. Layla was a vision, her beauty both fierce and effortless. Her long, jet-black hair flowed like a river over her shoulders, framing a face that could silence a room. High cheekbones, full lips, and eyes that held stories of battles won. She wore a simple white blouse, its sleeves rolled to her elbows, paired with tailored black trousers that moved with her confident stride. In her left hand, she held a Togo coffee cup, its steam curling faintly, a mundane detail that grounded her in a space designed to intimidate. No designer purse dangled from her arm, no entourage trailed her steps. She was alone, unadorned, yet her aura seemed to shift the lobby's gravity, drawing eyes from every corner. Her heels clicked softly, a metronome against the marble, each step deliberate, unhurried. The guests, businessmen in crisp suits, couples draped in luxury, paused mid-conversation, their glances lingering. A woman adjusting her pearl necklace whispered to her companion, her words lost but her curiosity plain. A man with a briefcase slowed his pace, his eyes flicking over Layla, as if trying to place her in this world of wealth. She felt their stares but didn't falter. She had walked into rooms like this before, rooms that judged before they welcomed, and she had learned to carry her own light. At the front desk, a fortress of polished mahogany, stood Owen Baxter, the hotel's manager. 50 years old with graying hair slicked back in a gray suit that screamed authority, he was a man who wielded power like a blade. His face was a mask of practiced civility, but his eyes betrayed a colder calculus, scanning the lobby for anything, or anyone, out of place. Flanking him were his clerks, Mia Chen, 29, her tight ponytail mirroring her forced smile, and Ethan Walsh, 26, lean and restless, his arms crossed as if guarding a secret. The trio formed a silent tribunal, their gazes locking onto Layla as she approached, their silence louder than any greeting. Layla stopped at the desk, her coffee cup resting lightly in her hand, her posture relaxed but unyielding. The lobby's hum faded, as if the room itself held its breath. Owen's eyes traveled over her, slow and deliberate, taking in her plain blouse, her lack of ostentation. His lips twitched, not quite a sneer, but close enough to sting. Mia's smile flickered, a crack in her facade, while Ethan's eyes narrowed, already painting her as a problem. The air between them thickened, charged with unspoken assumptions. "Can I help you?" Owen's voice was smooth, but it carried an edge, a challenge disguised as courtesy. The question wasn't an offer, it was a gate, one he seemed certain Layla couldn't pass. His tone suggested she was an anomaly, a glitch in the hotel's carefully curated order. The guests nearby leaned in, their curiosity now a tangible weight. A young woman in a red coat paused at a lounge chair, her phone halfway to her ear, watching. A man with a newspaper lowered it just enough to see, Layla met Owen's gaze, her eyes steady, unflinching. "I have a reservation," she said, her voice calm but resonant, like a note struck on a tuning fork. "Penthouse suite, under Morgan." The words were simple, but they landed like a gauntlet, a quiet assertion of her right to be there. She reached into her pocket, producing her ID and a sleek black credit card, sliding them across the counter with a grace that belied the tension. The card gleamed under the chandelier's light, its weight more than plastic, a symbol of power Owen couldn't yet fathom. Owen's fingers hesitated before picking up the ID, holding it as if it might burn. He studied it, then the card, his brow furrowing in a performance of skepticism. "Penthouse?" he said, his voice louder now, meant for the lobby as much as for her. "Are you sure you're at the right hotel?" The question was a blade, sharp and deliberate, slicing through the pretense of hospitality. It wasn't just doubt, it was dismissal, a verdict delivered before evidence. Mia's smile vanished, replaced by a thin line of judgment. Ethan shifted, his smirk barely concealed, as if Layla's audacity amused him. Layla didn't blink. "Quite sure," she said, her tone unshaken, a quiet defiance that seemed to unsettle the desk. Her coffee cup remained steady in her hand, a small anchor in the storm brewing before her. The lobby's attention sharpened, guests now openly staring, their whispers a soft current beneath the chandeliers. The woman in the red coat slipped her phone from her ear, her fingers hovering over the screen. The man with the newspaper folded it, his eyes fixed on the unfolding drama. Owen picked up the card with 2 fingers, holding it like evidence of a crime. His eyes flicked to Mia, then Ethan, a silent signal passing between them. "This looks suspicious," he muttered, loud enough for the nearest guest to hear. The word hung in the air, a spark waiting to ignite. Mia's hand moved to the desk, her fingers brushing a button, her eyes never leaving Layla. Ethan's smirk widened, his posture easing as if he'd already won. The desk became a stage, and Layla in their eyes was an interloper who didn't know her lines. But Layla stood unmoved, her presence a quiet storm. She had been here before, not in this lobby, but in moments like this, where her existence was questioned, her worth measured by those too small to see her. At 24, she'd been turned away from a Miami hotel, her sweats and exhaustion mistaken for unworthiness. That night, she'd slept in a rental car, her resolve hardening into a vision. She'd built the Grand Horizon and countless others to rewrite those moments. Now in her own lobby, she faced the same shadow, but this time, she was no longer a guest. She was the architect. The lobby watched, its silence a canvas for what was to come. Owen's hand hovered over the card, his judgment a weight he thought he could wield. Layla's eyes, dark and unyielding, met his, and in that moment, the room felt smaller, as if the chandeliers dimmed and the marble trembled. She was not just a woman with a reservation. She was a force, poised at the edge of a reckoning, her coffee cup a quiet testament to the calm before the storm. The air in the Grand Horizon Hotel's lobby crackled with unspoken verdicts as Layla Morgan stood before the front desk, her black credit card and ID gleaming under the chandelier's glow. The marble beneath her feet seemed to pulse with the weight of the moment, the lobby's opulence now a backdrop to a brewing storm. Owen Baxter, the manager, held her card with a disdain that bordered on theatrical, his gray suit a shield for his authority. His eyes, sharp and unyielding, bore into Layla, searching for a crack in her composure. Flanking him, Mia Chen's fingers hovered over the desk's intercom, her forced smile replaced by a taut line of suspicion, while Ethan Walsh leaned forward, his smirk a blade ready to cut. The guests, scattered across the velvet chairs and marble expanse, watched with bated breath, their whispers a soft undercurrent to the escalating drama. Layla's voice, calm yet resonant, had just declared her reservation for the penthouse suite. The words hung in the air, a challenge Owen seemed eager to dismantle. He tilted the card, catching the light, and let out a low, deliberate hum. "Penthouse?" he repeated, his voice dripping with incredulity, loud enough to carry to the nearest guest. "Are you sure you're at the right hotel?" The question was a gauntlet, thrown not just at Layla, but at the very idea of her presence in this sacred space. It wasn't doubt, it was erasure, a calculated move to paint her as an outsider before she could claim her place. Layla's expression remained steady, her coffee cup still in her left hand, its steam a faint wisp in the charged air. "Quite sure," she replied, her tone a velvet blade, slicing through Owen's condescension without raising her voice. Her eyes locked onto his, unblinking, a silent assertion that she would not be moved. The lobby's hum faltered, the guests' gazes sharpening. A woman in a red coat, standing near a lounge chair, lowered her phone, her fingers poised as if sensing a story unfolding. A man with a briefcase paused mid-step, turned fully toward the desk, his curiosity now a quiet allegiance. Owen's lips twitched, a flicker of annoyance crossing his face. He flipped the card over, holding it between two fingers, like evidence of a crime. "This looks suspicious," he said, his voice rising for the audience of guests, each word a brick in the wall he was building against her. He glanced at Mia, a silent command passing between them. Mia's hand pressed the intercom button, her voice crisp and cold as it echoed through the lobby. "Security, possible unauthorized guest attempting to access a premium suite." The announcement landed like a gavel, its finality meant to seal Layla's fate. Ethan seized the moment, his smirk widening as he stepped closer to the desk. "We get this all the time," he said, his tone mocking, meant for Layla but played for the room. "People walk in with fancy cards they found, thinking they can scam their way into a suite, usually hoping we won't check." His words were a performance, each syllable designed to diminish her, to paint her as a thief in a space that gleamed with wealth. The guests stirred, a soft gasp from the woman in the red coat, a murmur from a couple near the lounge. The lobby was no longer a passive stage, it was a jury, and Ethan was betting they'd side with him. Layla's composure didn't crack. She stood rooted, her posture relaxed but unyielding, the coffee cup a quiet anchor in her hand. "I'm not here for trouble," she said, her voice low, deliberate, each word a counterpoint to the chaos Owen and his team were trying to ignite. "I'm here for my room." The simplicity of her statement, delivered with such calm, seemed to unsettle Mia, whose fingers faltered over the desk. Owen, however, leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "We've seen this scam before," he said, louder now, his voice a whip meant to lash her into submission. "Fake cards, fake names, people who disappear when we call the bank. Not this time." He handed the card to Ethan with a flick of his wrist as if discarding something tainted. "Lock it up," Owen ordered, his tone final. Ethan moved with exaggerated care, opening a brushed steel safe behind the desk, its hinges creaking for effect. He placed the card inside, slamming the door shut with a clang that echoed like a verdict. "You're done here," Ethan said, his grin a challenge, daring Layla to fight back. The sound reverberated, drawing every eye in the lobby. The man with the briefcase took a step closer, his brow furrowed. The woman in the red coat raised her phone, her fingers trembling as she began to record. Across the room, Sophie Alvarez, a travel vlogger with a keen eye for injustice, whispered to her friend, Noah Patel, "This is messed up." Noah, already pulling out his phone, began live streaming, his voice low but urgent. "We're at the Grand Horizon, and something gross is happening," he narrated, his camera capturing the desk's cold tribunal. The stream flickered to life, a digital witness to the unfolding drama, its view count ticking upward as strangers joined the audience. Layla's eyes flicked to the safe, then back to Owen, her gaze a quiet fire. She reached into her pocket, pulling out her phone with a grace that belied the tension. Her fingers tapped a quick message, sent to Zara Brooks, her executive assistant, 3 blocks away. "It's happening." Zara's reply was instant. "Systems ready." The exchange was silent, unnoticed by the desk, but it was a spark, a promise of what was to come. Layla slipped the phone back into her pocket, her movements deliberate, her silence more commanding than any outburst. Owen leaned over the desk, his voice dropping to a venomous hiss, meant for Layla alone, but caught by the nearest guests. "You're wasting everyone's time," he said. "Walk out now, or we'll make that choice for you." The threat was a line drawn in the marble, a dare for Layla to cross. Mia nodded, her hand still near the intercom, ready to escalate. Ethan crossed his arms, his smirk now a mask of triumph, certain they'd won. But Layla didn't move. Her coffee cup remained steady, her eyes locked on Owen's. And in that moment, the lobby seemed to shrink, the chandelier's light dimming as if bowing to her presence. She was a woman who had built this empire from the ashes of rejection, who had turned shame into steel. The guests watched, their whispers now a chorus, their phones a growing arsenal. The woman in the red coat's video began to capture Sophie's frame, a chain of witnesses forming. Noah's stream hit 200 viewers, comments flooding. "This is wrong, keep filming." Layla's voice, when it came, was a quiet thunder. "You're going to regret this," she said, each word a promise, not a threat. The lobby held its breath, the marble beneath her feet a stage for a reckoning yet to unfold. Owen's smirk faltered, just for a moment, a crack in his armor. The confrontation had begun, and Layla Morgan was not the one who would break. The Grand Horizon Hotel's lobby pulsed with a restless energy, its marble floors and crystal chandeliers now mere witnesses to a drama unfolding at the front desk. Layla Morgan stood resolute, her coffee cup a quiet anchor in her hand, her jet-black hair catching the light as she faced the tribunal of Owen Baxter and his clerks. The air was thick with judgment, Owen's last words. "You're done here," still echoing, the clang of the safe door a gavel strike. But the lobby was no longer a silent stage. The guests, once passive spectators, stirred like a gathering storm, their eyes and phones turning the opulent space into an arena of accountability. A new force was rising, and it began with those who refused to look away. Across the room, Sophie Alvarez, a travel vlogger with a knack for spotting injustice, clutched her phone, her heart racing as she filmed the scene. Her dark eyes darted from Layla's unyielding stance to Owen's smug dismissal, capturing every twitch of arrogance. "This is messed up," she whispered to Noah Patel, her friend and fellow traveler, who stood beside her, his own phone already live streaming. Noah's voice, low but urgent, narrated to his growing audience. "We're at the Grand Horizon, and something gross is happening." His stream flickered to life, the view count ticking upward, 50, 100, 200. As strangers across the digital void joined the unfolding saga, comments rolled in like waves. "What's wrong with these people? Keep recording." Sophie's footage, raw and unfiltered, framed Layla as a solitary figure against the desk's cold authority, her calm a stark contrast to the staff's venom. Near the lounge chairs, a woman in a red coat, her phone halfway to her ear moments ago, now held it steady, recording the exchange. Her fingers trembled, not from fear but from a quiet fury, her video capturing Ethan's theatrical smirk as he locked Layla's card away. "They just took it," she muttered, her voice carrying to a couple nearby, who turned their heads, their murmurs joining the lobby's growing chorus. A man with a briefcase, his suit rumpled from travel, stepped closer, his brow furrowed as he watched Owen's performance. "This isn't right," he said to no one in particular, his words a spark in the dry tinder of the room. The guests were no longer just onlookers. They were witnesses, their attention a weight that pressed against the desk. At the concierge podium, Amara Jones, the young staff member, with a gaze both sharp and hesitant, felt the tension coil in her chest. Her eyes met Layla's, a fleeting connection that carried a silent recognition. She had seen Layla's name in the system that morning, penthouse suite, VIP tag, executive override. But Owen's authority had kept her silent until now. Her hands fidgeted with a pen, her heart pounding as she took a step forward, her voice breaking the desk's dominion. "I saw her reservation," she said, her tone shaky but clear, each word a defiance of Owen's glare. "It's valid, penthouse suite, VIP tag." The lobby seemed to lean in, the guest's whispers softening to hear her. Owen whirled on her, his gray suit taut with anger. "One more word and you're out," he snapped, his voice a whip meant to silence. Amara froze, her breath catching, but her eyes didn't leave Layla's. Something passed between them, a shared understanding, a spark of courage. Layla's expression remained steady, her coffee cup unmoved, but her gaze softened for a moment, acknowledging Amara's stand. The concierge's words had cracked the facade, and the lobby felt it. the air shifting as if the chandeliers themselves flickered. Layla's voice cut through, low and deliberate, a quiet thunder that stilled the room. "You're going to regret this," she said, her words not a threat but a promise, aimed at Owen but resonating with every soul present. The guests stirred, their phones now a constellation of lenses capturing the drama. The woman in the red coat's video zoomed in on Ethan's smirk, Sophie's footage panned to Mia's nervous glance, and Noah's stream surged to 300 viewers, comments flooding, "She's not backing down. This guy's a jerk." The lobby was alive, its opulence dwarfed by the human current now flowing through it. Layla reached into her pocket, her movements graceful yet precise, pulling out her phone. Her fingers tapped a swift message, sent to Zara Brooks, her executive assistant, 3 blocks away. "It's happening." Zara's reply was instant. "Systems ready." The exchange was invisible to the desk, a secret weapon cloaked in Layla's calm. She slipped the phone back, her posture unchanged, but the act was a pivot, a signal that the tide was turning. The guests didn't know it yet, but they felt it. The man with the briefcase nodding slightly, the couple near the lounge whispering, "She's not scared." Sophie leaned closer to Noah, her voice barely audible. "This is going viral," she said, her phone steady as she uploaded a clip to Reddit, captioned, "Hotel staff steals guest card." The post began to spread, a digital ember catching fire. Noah's stream ticked to 400 viewers, his narration growing bolder. "They're treating her like a criminal, and she's not flinching." The lobby's energy shifted, the guests' murmurs now a low roar, their phones a growing arsenal of truth. A young man in a hoodie standing near the entrance raised his phone, his video catching Layla's unyielding gaze. "This is wild," he muttered, his footage joining the digital chorus. Amara, still at her podium, clutched her pen tighter, her resolve hardening. She wanted to say more, to shout that Layla's reservation was not just valid, but sacred, but Owen's glare held her in check. Yet her stand had ignited something. The woman in the red coat stepped closer, her video now capturing Amara's tense posture. The man with the briefcase spoke again, louder this time. "They can't just take her card." His words drew nods from the couple, their phones raised, their allegiance clear. Layla stood at the center, her coffee cup a quiet testament to her calm, her eyes locked on Owen's. The lobby was no longer a place of luxury, it was a crucible, forging something new. The guests, with their phones and their outrage, were no longer passive. They were witnesses, their voices a rising tide. Sophie's footage, Noah's stream, the woman's video, all were threads in a tapestry of accountability, weaving a story that would soon break free. Layla's silence was her power, her presence a challenge the desk could not answer. The witnesses had gathered, and the stage was set for a reckoning. The Grand Horizon Hotel's lobby thrummed with a volatile energy, its marble expanse no longer a sanctuary of luxury, but a crucible of confrontation. At the heart of it stood Layla Morgan, her jet-black hair a dark cascade against her white blouse, her coffee cup a steadfast companion in her hand. The front desk, a fortress of mahogany and prejudice, loomed before her, where Owen Baxter, Mia Chen, and Ethan Walsh held court, their authority fraying under the weight of the guests' growing scrutiny. The air was electric, charged with the unspoken verdict of a lobby-turned jury. Phones gleamed like stars in the hands of onlookers, capturing every word, every glance, as the tension coiled tighter, ready to snap. Owen's voice, sharp and commanding, sliced through the hum. "Your reservation's canceled," he declared, leaning over the desk, his gray suit taut with conviction. "We don't tolerate deception." The words were a guillotine, meant to sever Layla's claim to the space. His eyes glinted with triumph, certain he'd reclaim control. Mia stepped forward, her earlier hesitation replaced by a bold certainty. "Leave now, or we'll call the police," she said, her tone a mirror of Owen's. Her hand hovering near the intercom as if daring Layla to resist. Ethan, emboldened, crossed his arms, his smirk a silent taunt, the safe behind him a trophy of their power. Layla stood unmoved, her posture a study in resolve, her coffee cup steady despite the storm. "You mean in front of these witnesses?" she asked, her voice low but resonant, gesturing to the crowd now openly filming. Her words were a spark, igniting the lobby's restless energy. Sophie Alvarez, her phone unwavering, zoomed in on Mia's tense fingers. Noah Patel's live stream, now at 800 viewers, pulsed with comments. They're bullying her. Don't stop recording. The woman in a red coat, her video steady, caught Owen's fleeting glance at the crowd, a crack in his armor. The man with a briefcase, his suit rumpled, spoke up. This is theft, plain and simple. His voice drew nods, the guests' murmurs swelling into a chorus of dissent. Layla's eyes, dark and unyielding, met Owen's, but her calm was not surrender. It was strategy. She had endured enough, her patience worn thin by the desk's relentless prejudice. Deciding to walk away, she turned toward the glass doors, her heels clicking with purpose, her coffee cup still in hand. The lobby watched, a collective breath held, phones tracking her every step. Owen, sensing victory, couldn't resist a final blow. As Layla passed, he extended his foot with a deliberate flick, his smirk a silent dare. The motion was swift, almost invisible, but its impact was seismic. Layla tripped, her balance faltering, her coffee cup slipping from her grasp. The cup hit the marble with a sharp crack, its contents splashing in a dark, steaming arc across the pristine floor. Layla caught herself on the edge of a lounge table, her blouse now stained with coffee, her hair falling forward like a curtain. The lobby erupted in gasps, a wave of shock rippling through the guests. Sophie shouted, "He tripped her!" Her voice raw with outrage, her phone capturing the spill in vivid detail. Noah's stream surged to 1,000 viewers, comments flooding, "That's assault! This is disgusting!" The woman in the red coat stepped forward, her video trembling but focused. "Did you see that?" she called to a couple nearby, who nodded, their phones raised higher. Layla straightened, brushing her hands against her trousers, her blouse clinging damply to her skin. Her eyes blazed, not with tears, but with a controlled fury that seemed to dim the chandeliers. She turned to Owen, her voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. "That was your last mistake," she said, each word a vow, her calm now a weapon honed by years of resilience. The lobby fell silent, the guests frozen, their phones a constellation of truth. Owen's smirk faltered, his triumph souring as he registered the crowd's shift. Mia's hand dropped from the intercom, her confidence crumbling. Ethan's arms uncrossed, his bravado wavering under the weight of 100 eyes. Amara Jones, the concierge, could no longer stay silent. She rushed from her podium, ignoring Owen's earlier threat, her voice trembling but resolute. "I'm so sorry, Ms. Morgan," she said, stepping to Layla's side. "Your reservation is in the system. Penthouse suite, executive override." Her words were a lifeline, a crack in the desk's narrative. Owen whirled on her, his face flushed. "She's a fraud," he barked, gesturing at Layla's stained blouse, her spilled coffee, as if they proved his point. "Look at her!" But the guests weren't looking at Layla with doubt. They were looking at Owen with disgust. The woman in the red coat moved closer, her phone steady. "You don't touch her again," she said, her voice firm, positioning herself between Layla and the desk. The man with a briefcase joined, his briefcase set down as he stood tall. A couple with a stroller rolled it forward, their presence a quiet barrier. Within moments, a loose circle formed around Layla, a human shield forged by strangers who saw truth in her defiance. Sophie's footage captured the shift, her Reddit clip now viral, hotel manager trips black guest. Noah's stream hit 1,200 viewers, his narration fierce. The guests are protecting her now. Layla stood at the center, her coffee-stained blouse a badge of survival, her hair framing a face that radiated power. She pulled out her phone, her movements precise despite the chaos. "Zara, escalate," she said softly, her voice carrying a weight that silenced the lobby. "Log everything." Zara Brooks, her assistant, replied instantly. "Timestamps locked. Carla's on standby." The exchange was a secret fuse, lit and burning, unseen by the desk but felt by the crowd. The man with a briefcase nodded, as if sensing the tide turning. The couple whispered, "She's not done." Owen, desperate to regain control, lunged toward the intercom. "Security! Remove this woman!" he shouted, his voice cracking under the strain. But the guest circle tightened, their phones unwavering, their outrage a palpable force. Layla's gaze locked onto Owen's, her silence louder than his commands. The lobby was no longer his domain. It was hers, claimed not by force, but by the witnesses who refused to let her fall. The breaking point had arrived, and Layla Morgan was the one standing tall. The Grand Horizon Hotel's lobby was a cauldron of raw emotion, its marble floors stained with the dark spill of Layla Morgan's coffee, a stark testament to the injustice that had just unfolded. The air crackled with the collective outrage of guests, their phones raised like torches, capturing the aftermath of Owen Baxter's cruel act. Layla stood at the center, her white blouse marred with coffee, her jet-black hair framing a face alight with controlled fury. The protective circle of strangers, guests who had become allies, held firm around her, their presence a silent rebuke to the front desk's tyranny. Owen, Mia Chen, and Ethan Walsh stood frozen, their authority unraveling as the lobby's gaze turned from judgment to condemnation. In this charged moment, a truth was about to ignite, one that would reshape the very ground they stood on. Layla's voice, when it came, was a quiet thunder, each syllable weighted with purpose. "This lobby belongs to me," she declared, her words slicing through the tension like a blade through silk. The room froze, the chandeliers seeming to dim as her statement landed. Owen's flushed face paled, his gray suit no longer a shield. Mia's hand, still near the intercom, fell limp, her earlier bravado extinguished. Ethan's smirk vanished, his arms dropping as if the safe behind him had betrayed his confidence. The guest gasped, a ripple of shock spreading through the crowd. The woman in the red coat lowered her phone slightly, her eyes wide. The man with a briefcase whispered, "What did she say?" The couple with the stroller leaned closer, their murmurs joining the lobby's stunned hush. Layla stepped forward, her coffee-stained blouse a badge of defiance, her gaze locked on Owen's. "I am Layla Morgan, CEO and founder of Horizon Hospitality Group," she continued, her voice steady, resonant, filling the marble expanse with an authority that dwarfed the desk. "And you, Owen Baxter, are done." The revelation struck like lightning, electrifying the lobby. Sophie Alvarez, her phone trembling, zoomed in on Layla's unyielding face, her Reddit clip surging with views. Hotel manager trips black guest. Noah Patel's live stream, now at 2,000 viewers, erupted with comments. "She's the CEO? This is insane." The woman in the red coat raised her phone again, her video capturing the crowd's shifting energy. Owen stammered, his voice a cracked shell of its former command. "This is illegal," he barked, but the words were hollow, drowned by the lobby's awakening. Mia's eyes darted to the floor, her confidence shattered. Ethan took a step back, his bravado replaced by a flicker of fear. Layla pulled out her phone, her movements precise, a general marshaling her forces. "Carla," she said, her voice calm but unyielding, "terminate Owen Baxter, Mia Chen, and Ethan Walsh. Immediate removal from the Horizon system. Freeze their credentials and log this for legal audit." Carla Bennett's voice, crisp and final, came through the speaker. "Processing now." A moment later, Owen's access badge buzzed red, its light a scarlet brand of disgrace. Mia's followed, then Ethan's, each buzz a hammer strike to their crumbling empire. The lobby erupted in murmurs, the guest phones a constellation of truth. Sophie whispered to Noah, "She owns the whole company," her voice breathless with awe. Noah's stream ticked to 2,500 viewers, his narration fierce. "She just fired them. Live, in her own hotel." The man with a briefcase nodded, his earlier outrage now vindication. The couple with the stroller clapped softly, their approval a quiet drumbeat. Amara Jones, the concierge who had dared to speak, stepped closer to Layla, her eyes glassy with emotion. "I knew it," she said softly, her voice a lifeline in the chaos. "I saw your name in the system. Executive override." Layla turned to Amara, her gaze softening for a moment. "You told the truth," she said, her words a quiet acknowledgement of courage. Then addressing the crowd, she raised her voice, not with anger, but with certainty. "This isn't just about me. It's about every guest told they don't belong. That ends today. The lobby stilled, her words a clarion call. The woman in the red coat lowered her phone, nodding as if Layla had spoken directly to her. A young man in a hoodie, filming from the entrance, muttered, "This is history." Amara, emboldened, spoke again, her voice steadier now. "I logged complaints about Owen's bias last quarter," she said, her eyes flicking to the disgraced manager. "He dismissed them all, 3 from solo women, 2 about racial profiling." The guests stirred, their murmurs growing sharper. The man with a briefcase called out, "I emailed about a racist check-in last year, and he ignored it." A woman near the lounge chairs added, "They overcharged me and never responded." The lobby became a chorus of grievances, each voice a thread in a tapestry of accountability. Layla's phone buzzed, and she glanced at it, her jaw tightening. "Zara, promote Amara Jones to guest services director," she said, her voice carrying across the room. "Prepare a statement for full lobby reform." Zara's reply was instant. "On it." The guests clapped, not loudly but with purpose, a measured acknowledgement of justice. Sophie's footage captured Amara's stunned expression, her Reddit post now viral with thousands of shares. Noah's stream hit 3,000 viewers, comments flooding, "She's rewriting the rules. This is power." Owen, desperate, lunged toward the desk, his voice ragged. "You can't do this," he shouted, but the crowd's circle tightened, their phones unwavering. Layla met his gaze, her calm a fortress. "I walked in like any guest," she said, her voice cutting through his protest. "You chose to profile me, humiliate me, assault me. You failed the test." The lobby's energy shifted, the guests no longer spectators but allies, their outrage a palpable force. The woman in the red coat spoke again. "You're done, Owen." The man with a briefcase nodded, his briefcase forgotten on the floor. Layla stood at the center, her stained blouse a symbol of survival, her presence a beacon. The revelation had shattered the desk's power, and the lobby was hers, not by force, but by truth. The guest phones, Sophie's footage, Noah's stream, all bore witness to a moment that would echo far beyond these walls. Layla's eyes, dark and unyielding, held the room, and in that silence, a new order was born. The Grand Horizon Hotel's lobby vibrated with the aftershock of Layla Morgan's revelation, its marble floors and crystal chandeliers, now mere witnesses to a seismic shift in power. Layla stood at the center, her coffee-stained blouse a badge of defiance, her jet-black hair framing a face that radiated unyielding authority. The protective circle of guests, strangers turned allies, stood firm, their phones aglow, capturing the wreckage of Owen Baxter, Mia Chen, and Ethan Walsh's authority. The front desk, once a bastion of control, was now a crumbling ruin, its occupants stripped of their badge's power, their red-buzzing disgrace a public execution. The air crackled with the weight of justice unfolding, a reckoning that would not be denied. Owen's face, flushed with desperation, twisted as he clung to the last threads of his unraveling command. "This is illegal!" he bellowed, lunging toward the desk, his gray suit creased with panic. His voice cracked, a hollow echo in a lobby that no longer heeded him. "You can't just fire us like this." Mia, her earlier bravado shattered, gripped the counter's edge, her eyes darting to the floor as if it could swallow her shame. Ethan, his smirk replaced by a nervous twitch, backed away from the safe, its contents, Layla's black card, now a symbol of his miscalculation. The guests watched, their phones unwavering, a constellation of lenses documenting the fall of a petty empire. Layla's gaze, dark and unyielding, met Owen's, her calm a fortress against his chaos. "I walked in like any guest," she said, her voice a blade, sharp and precise. "You chose to profile me, humiliate me, assault me. You failed the test." Her words were not just a verdict, but a mirror, reflecting the desk's prejudice back at them. The lobby stirred, the guest murmurs swelling into a chorus of agreement. The woman in the red coat, her phone steady, nodded fiercely. "You're done, Owen," she said, her voice a clarion call. The man with a briefcase, his earlier outrage now vindication, set his case down, his hands clapping softly, purposefully. Amara Jones, newly elevated to guest services director, stepped to Layla's side, her posture straight, her eyes gleaming with resolve. "They've been removed," she announced loud enough for every guest to hear, her voice a beacon in the storm. "They don't speak for Horizon anymore." The words landed like a gavel, final and irrevocable. Sophie Alvarez, her footage capturing Amara's defiance, uploaded another clip to Reddit, its caption blazing, "CEO fires staff in real time." Noah Patel's live stream, now at 3,500 viewers, pulsed with comments. "This is justice. She's unstoppable." The lobby was no longer a place of luxury. It was a courtroom, and Layla was its judge. Layla turned to Amara, her voice softening but firm. "Retrieve my card," she instructed, her eyes flicking to the safe. Amara moved with quiet efficiency, entering a new code, her own, into the safe's keypad. The door clicked open, revealing Layla's black card, pristine and untouched. Amara handed it back, her hands steady, her eyes meeting Layla's with a silent vow. Layla took the card, slipping it into her pocket with a grace that belied the chaos, her stained blouse a testament to her survival. The guests clapped again, their applause measured, not chaotic, a recognition of a wrong righted. The crowd's voices grew bolder, their grievances spilling forth like a dam breaking. A woman near the lounge chairs stepped forward, her voice trembling but clear. "I was overcharged last year, and Owen dismissed my complaint," she said, her phone raised as if to validate her truth. A man in a navy suit standing near the entrance added, "They ignored my ADA request, then gave the room to someone else." The lobby became a tapestry of past slights, each thread woven by Owen's negligence. Amara spoke up, her voice now a steady flame. "I logged 3 complaints about bias last quarter," she said, her eyes locking onto Owen. "All dismissed, signed off by you." Owen's desperation snapped. "That's a lie," he shouted, but his voice was drowned by the crowd's rising tide. Mia, pale and silent, shrank against the counter, her complicity exposed. Ethan, his earlier bravado gone, muttered, "We were just following orders." But the guests weren't listening. Sophie's Reddit post, now viral with thousands of shares, flashed across screens, its clips of Owen's cruelty spreading like wildfire. Noah's stream hit 4,000 viewers, his narration unwavering. "The guests are speaking now, and they're not holding back." Layla raised her phone, her movements deliberate. "Zara, escalate the internal audit," she said, her voice carrying across the lobby. "Pull Owen's complaint records." Zara Brooks's reply was swift. "Compliance flagged falsified summaries, tied to ex-director Victor Hayes, retired amid HR violations." Layla's jaw tightened, her eyes narrowing as she absorbed the depth of the rot. "Document it," she ordered, her voice a quiet command that silenced the room. The guests nodded, their phones capturing every moment, their allegiance to Layla absolute. The woman in the red coat spoke again, her voice steady. "I've stayed here for years, but never again unless this changes." The man with a briefcase added, "You expose them, Ms. Morgan." The couple with the stroller, their child asleep, whispered, "This is what accountability looks like." Layla's presence, coffee-stained and commanding, was a beacon, drawing the lobby into a shared purpose. She addressed the crowd, her voice clear, unwavering. "This hotel will answer for every guest wronged. We start now." Owen, Mia, and Ethan stood behind the counter, their power extinguished, their faces pale with the weight of their disgrace. The lobby, once their domain, now belonged to Layla, not by force but by the truth she had unleashed. Sophie's footage, Noah's stream, the guest videos, all bore witness to a reckoning that would not fade. Layla's eyes, dark and resolute, held the room, her stained blouse a symbol of a battle won. The reckoning was complete, and the lobby stood transformed, a space where justice had claimed its due. The Grand Horizon Hotel's lobby pulsed with a newfound clarity, its marble floors and crystal chandeliers no longer symbols of exclusion, but a stage for renewal. Layla Morgan stood at the heart of this transformed space, her coffee-stained blouse a testament to her resilience, her jet-black hair framing a face that radiated quiet command. The front desk, once a fortress of prejudice, stood empty, its former occupants, Owen Baxter, Mia Chen, and Ethan Walsh, stripped of power and escorted out, their disgrace a fading echo. The guests, their phones now lowered, were no longer mere witnesses but partners in a moment of reckoning, their faces alight with hope and resolve. Amara Jones, newly appointed guest services director, stood beside Layla, her posture steady, her eyes gleaming with purpose. The lobby was no longer a battleground, it was a crucible for change, and Layla was its architect. Layla's voice, clear and unwavering, cut through the lingering hum of the crowd. "This hotel isn't broken because of its decor," she said, her words a beacon in the marble expanse. "It's broken because some were welcomed and others interrogated. That era ends now." The guests nodded, their murmurs a soft agreement, their earlier outrage now a shared commitment. The woman in a red coat, her phone tucked away, stepped closer, her eyes meeting Layla's with quiet admiration. The man with a briefcase, his suit rumpled, clutched his case, his earlier defiance softened into respect. The couple with the stroller, their child stirring, whispered, "She's changing everything." Layla turned to Amara, her gaze firm but warm. "Reset the check-in system," she instructed. "Suspend pending reservations flagged under Owen's staff ID." Amara nodded, moving to the desk with a confidence that belied her youth. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, disabling logins tied to the disgraced staff, her actions swift and precise. The system flickered, its digital gates now under new command. "Done," Amara confirmed, her voice steady, a quiet vow to uphold the change Layla envisioned. The guests watched, their silence a canvas for the transformation unfolding before them. Layla pulled out her phone, her movements deliberate, a general marshaling her forces. "Zara," she said, her voice carrying across the lobby, "send the internal alert. Notify regional compliance, diversity operations, and legal. I want a full audit of this location's guest complaints, staff conduct, and suppression logs." Zara Brooks' reply was crisp. "Already in motion. Media's circling, but your voice is leading." Layla's jaw tightened, her resolve a quiet fire. "Good," she said, slipping the phone back into her pocket, her stained blouse catching the chandelier's light, a symbol of battles fought and won. The guests, sensing the shift, began to approach, their hesitation giving way to trust. A woman clutching a reservation printout, her voice soft, stepped toward Amara. "Thank you," she said, her eyes glassy. "I was scared to speak earlier." Amara smiled, her warmth a bridge to the future. "We're listening now," she replied, her words a promise etched in the lobby's new air. A man in a navy suit, his tie loosened, offered to help with luggage, his earlier anger now a willingness to contribute. A couple near the lounge chairs volunteered to distribute water bottles, their small act a thread in the tapestry of cohesion weaving through the room. Sophie Alvarez, her phone now lowered, approached Layla, her vlogger's instinct tempered by reverence. "Do you want me to keep posting?" she asked, her voice low but earnest. Layla nodded, her eyes meeting Sophie's. "Only truth," she said, her words a mandate that resonated beyond the lobby. Sophie nodded, her fingers already drafting a new post, its caption simple: "CEO reclaims hotel, starts reform." Noah Patel's livestream, still active at 5,000 viewers, shifted its tone, his narration now one of hope. "This isn't just a firing, it's a new beginning." Comments flooded. "She's a legend? This is what change looks like." Layla addressed the crowd, her voice a steady current. "If you've been mistreated here, my team will be stationed in the lobby," she said, gesturing to Amara, who was already organizing a guest feedback desk. "You'll get answers, not excuses, within 48 hours." The guests murmured in approval, their phones now tools of collaboration rather than confrontation. The woman in the red coat spoke up, her voice clear. "I've stayed here for years, but this is the first time I feel seen." The man with a briefcase added, "Thank you for not walking away." His words drew nods, the lobby's energy now a shared purpose. Layla turned to Amara, her instructions precise. "Suspend front desk bookings temporarily," she said. "Redirect guests to our downtown partner location with a complimentary night." Amara nodded, her hands already moving to execute the order. "More than okay," she replied, her confidence a reflection of Layla's trust. Layla's phone buzzed, and Zara's voice came through, urgent but controlled. "Local media is requesting a statement. We've confirmed your authority to suspend operations for guest safety. Layla's response was immediate. Do it. Amara will handle VIP guests manually. The lobby watched, its opulence now a backdrop to a new order, one built on accountability. The guests, no longer spectators, became supporters. A young man in a hoodie offered to guide redirected guests to the partner hotel, his earlier video now a relic of the past. The couple with the stroller, their child now awake, smiled at Amara, their trust a quiet endorsement. The lobby, once a place of division, was now a headquarters for reform, its marble floors a foundation for something greater. Layla stood at its heart, her stained blouse a symbol of her fight, her presence a promise of change. The transformation was not just a moment, it was a movement, and the Grand Horizon would never be the same. The Grand Horizon Hotel's lobby shimmered with a quiet reverence, its marble floors and crystal chandeliers now symbols of a hard-won renewal. The chaos of confrontation had given way to a profound stillness, a space reborn through Layla Morgan's unyielding resolve. She stood at the center, her coffee-stained blouse a relic of her triumph, her jet-black hair catching the light like a crown. The guests, their phones now stowed, lingered with a shared sense of purpose, their faces reflecting awe and gratitude. Amara Jones, now guest services director, moved with steady grace behind the front desk, her presence a testament to the new order. The lobby was no longer just a hotel, it was a monument to change, and Layla's legacy was taking root, its impact destined to ripple far beyond these walls. Layla's gaze swept the room, her eyes dark and resolute, carrying the weight of a vision forged in adversity. She addressed the crowd, her voice a clear, resonant force. Hospitality isn't a smile, she said, each word deliberate, etching itself into the marble. It's the respect you assume from the moment someone walks in. The guests stood rapt, their silence a canvas for her words. The woman in a red coat, her earlier defiance softened, nodded, her eyes glistening. The man with a briefcase, his suit still rumpled, clutched his case, his earlier outrage now a quiet reverence. The couple with the stroller, their child gazing up, leaned closer, their murmurs a soft echo of agreement. Amara, her hands steady on the desk, finalized the system reset, ensuring no trace of Owen's influence remained. She looked to Layla, her voice soft but firm. The feedback desk is ready, she said, gesturing to a station where guests could voice past grievances. Layla nodded, her approval a silent vow to uphold the change. Open direct lines for complaints, she instructed, her tone unwavering. No form letters, just answers. Amara complied, her actions a bridge to a future where every guest was heard. The guests watched, their trust in the new leadership palpable, their earlier recordings now relics of a battle won. Layla pulled out her phone, her movements precise, a conductor orchestrating a symphony of reform. Zara, she said, her voice carrying across the lobby, launch Horizon Forward, our diversity and inclusion initiative. Appoint Amara as national advisor for guest experience. Zara Brooks' reply was swift. Drafted and approved, the board's behind you. Layla's jaw set, her resolve a quiet fire. Let the public see what happens when a company acts, she said, slipping the phone back, her stained blouse catching the light, a symbol of her unbowed spirit. The guests murmured, their approval a growing tide, their phones now tools of celebration rather than confrontation. The lobby stirred as guests approached Amara, their voices soft, their stories ready to be told. A woman in her 60s, her hands trembling, shared a tale of being dismissed at check-in years ago. No one listened, she said, her eyes meeting Amara's. Now I believe they will. Amara nodded, her warmth a promise. We're here, she replied, her words a cornerstone of the new horizon. A young man in a hoodie, his earlier video viral, offered to help organize guest feedback, his energy a spark in the lobby's renewal. The couple with the stroller, their child now smiling, volunteered to assist with logistics, their small act a thread in the fabric of change. Sophie Alvarez, her vlogger's instinct now a quiet reverence, approached Layla, her phone at her side. We came for a vacation, she said, her voice low, but we witnessed a revolution. Layla met her gaze, her eyes softening. You made it real, she said, her words a nod to Sophie's courage. Noah Patel, his live stream now ended at 6,000 viewers, joined them, his narration a memory. She turned a lobby into a movement. Their footage, shared across platforms, had ignited a global conversation, their names now synonymous with accountability. Layla's nod was a silent thank you, her presence a bridge between the moment and its lasting impact. The lobby's transformation was cemented as a framed plaque was prepared near the desk. Its words a vow. Every guest belongs. Amara, now a permanent fixture, led with empathy, her every action a reflection of Layla's vision. The guests, their stories now heard, lingered, unwilling to break the spell. The woman in a red coat spoke, her voice clear. "This is what a hotel should be," she said, her words drawing nods. The man with a briefcase added, "You've given us something to believe in." His briefcase, forgotten on the floor, was a relic of a world left behind. Layla's phone buzzed, and Zara's voice came through, urgent but steady. "Media outlets are amplifying your story. X and Reddit are calling it a reckoning." Layla's response was firm. "Let them talk. Truth doesn't need hashtags." The guests, sensing the weight of her words, stood taller, their allegiance a quiet force. A man in a navy suit, his tie loosened, said, "I've waited years for someone to do this." His words echoed the lobby a chorus of shared dreams. Layla stood at the center, her stained blouse a symbol of her fight, her presence a promise of permanence. The legacy she was building was not just for the grand horizon, but for every space where respect had been denied. The guests, their faces alight, were no longer strangers. They were part of something greater, a movement born in a lobby and destined to endure. Amara's steady hand, Sophie's courage, Noah's voice, all were threads in a tapestry Layla had woven, a legacy that would outlast the marble and chandeliers, a testament to a woman who had turned an exit into an entrance for all. What an incredible journey of justice and empowerment. We hope Layla's story inspired you as much as it did us. Share your thoughts in the comments. How would you have reacted in that lobby? Your voice matters. A huge thank you for watching, liking, and being part of our community. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to catch more powerful stories like this one. Until next time, keep standing for what's right, and we'll see you in the next video.